Hey, what's up, all you cool cats? It's Waaahtaburger back again. I know it was just moments since I uploaded my Pokemon Showdown video, but point is, I wanted to make a discussion video on Darkrai. If you didn't realize, um, around the same time we got uh, the information on the 7 new Pokemon Sun and Moon Pokemon, like Tapu Koko, Charjabug, Vikavolt, etc. Around that time, we also got word of Pokken DLC. Now, of course, people didn't know exactly how to translate it, but as you can see, new question mark 714. We came to the conclusion, and some people were able to translate it, but we came to the conclusion that this was a new fighter. And 714, which was just recently, it. But before I get into that, before we got this, we found data mine leaks of 3 characters in the files, and those were Skizor, Darkrai, Darkrai's here, and Empoleon. Darkrai, today, in early in the morning, we get this trailer from Namco Bandai, I think the Japanese Pokemon company, I don't know. And basically, if I can find it right here, it basically reveals Darkrai, the Sinnoh Legendary. Now, before I get into him, I want to discuss what this means. Like I said, this was not for the console version. This was an update made for the arcade version. What I mean by that is, in the trailer, when it's finished talking about Darkrai, it talks about Garchomp, Braixen, and Shadow Mewtwo. Braixen, Garchomp, and Shadow Mewtwo were characters that were in the console version, but not the arcade version. Because of that, Darkrai is only available on the arcade version. He will be only available on the arcade version until further notice on July 20th. And I want to talk about what that means, because ever since Pokken was released, it's always been ahead on consoles. It's always been ahead of arcade versions with the characters and stages and story and blah blah blah. So a lot of people are speculating about they're all gonna get the same characters. It's gonna be updated. I don't think that's the case, because if that were the case, they would have shown off Empoleon and Skizor. So what I think they're gonna do is they are going to put Darkrai and these 3 characters and new stages and events and blah 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 in the arcade version. That'll catch it up to the console version right now. But in the console version, they're going to add Skizor and Empoleon exclusively. I feel like this because it'd be a better business practice. I don't know how arcades work in Japan. I don't assume they're too different from how they work in America. But the point is, I would assume that it would be a better business decision to, promote the console version in a way that the arcade simply doesn't. And because of that, it kind of feels like Smash 3DS and Smash Wii U, because Smash 3DS is just kind of Smash Brothers normally, but Smash Bros. Wii U is the revamped version of Smash Bros. 3DS. I would assume that the console version of Pokken is Smash Wii U, and the arcade version of Pokken is Smash 3DS. Now I want to talk about Darkrai himself. Darkrai in the trailer was a very menacing pick, I'd say. Darkrai, Darkrai's my favorite Pokemon of all time, hands down, the best. And this really made me happy because it's my favorite Pokemon of all time. I'm picking him up immediately when he gets released. Now, his moves feel a lot like Gengar, and he feels like a technical fighter because the video is not going to pick up what the actual video is showing because it's sucky and my recording equipment's not that good. But if you can see it here, Darkrai can make doppelgangers of himself as fighters, and then like when the opponent gets close, he can activate something, and they will like explode and deal damage. And he also has other moves like Dark Void, like he does in the anime with Tobias. Blah blah blah. Now, Darkrai, he seems like a very hard fighter to pick up, but if you master him, he could be a menace. He reminds me of Bayonetta in Super Smash Bros. But because of that, it's kind of hard to imagine Darkrai as a fighter that would easily be picked up, and sometimes easily played as, because for me, when I main a character, there has to be motive for it. For example, in Smash Bros. 4, I main Lucas. I main Lucas and Ness because Mother 3 and Earthbound is one of my favorite games of all time. And if a character that I wanted were to be put into DLC, I would main them, regardless of how good or bad they are. If Banjo and Kazooie were put in, I would main them on the spot. If Porky from Mother 3 was put in, I'd main him on the spot. But if a character like Isaac was put in, I wouldn't main him. And because of that, I wouldn't think that I'm good with him, because I don't play as him, and that would mean I'm not good with him. But the point is, it's kind of hard for me to imagine that a lot of people would like to play as Darkrai, because Darkrai is nothing compared to Mewtwo in most people's eyes. I don't really like Mewtwo that much, to be honest, but that's a story for another day. He's cool and all, but not as cool as Darkrai, of course, and Deoxys. Like, Deoxys and Darkrai are like the Hoenn and Johto, and not Johto, Sinnoh versions of Mewtwo for Kanto. Now, on to the DLC itself, if and when it was put on consoles. Assuming it's going to be put on consoles, it probably will, because it's a good business decision. I would assume that it's good if this... I would assume that this... It's hard for me to explain. I would assume that this DLC would be free. And this also applies to things like Shovel Knight DLC, which is confirmed to be free, Plague of Shadows, and then the 2 campaigns with King Knight and Spectre Knight coming out this year. I would assume that it would make sense for them to make this free because, one, the arcade version is already getting Darkrai, so even if they don't make this free, they should at least make Darkrai just part of the update. Kind of like the Miiverse did in Smash Brothers. It sounds kind of lame and just like me complaining, but hear me out. Because not a lot of people have bought Pokken. Not a lot of people have purchased the game. It's like it sold more than Street Fighter V, yes, but it hasn't sold nearly as much as other Wii U titles. So I don't think 3 characters that you have to pay extra money for is going to make a game sell well. But I do think that if they were to just add them in the game, like as an updates, like Plague of Shadows was for Shovel Knight, I think that it would be a good business decision, and it may rack up a few sales of people who haven't bought it yet. I personally know of some people who haven't bought it yet. I personally bought it myself, and I enjoy it, but Darkrai and Poleon's Skizor are just bonuses. With that being said, I would like to see more DLC come if at all possible. Specifically Greninja, and it's a far-fetched idea, and I'll talk about this in another video, but maybe the possibility of Tapu Koko. That's about it for me. What do y'all think of the DLC? Is it rad as bag of chips, or does it not float your goat? Leave a comment and a like and all that cool jazz, and if you're new here, you should subscrizzle. Anyway, I'll catch you cool cats on the flip side. See y'all around.